Good morning, everyone. So, today we are thrilled to present to you all our latest project, which is the Eco Farm Lodge in one of the farms in Saudi Arabia, in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia, which is Al-Hasa. And allow me to welcome Ibrahim, Amani from Kristina Zanic interior designing firm, and James Atkinson. James is the CEO of Fractal Design, and they were our partners in this potential project. Who is Afyaa? Afyaa Holding is a real estate development agency or holding a group in Saudi Arabia. And in Afyaa, we have an experience of more than 35 years. It was like a normal real estate development company. And at the moment, we converted into four-segment companies, so four-segment company for real estate. We are developing, at the beginning, we are developing residential houses, hospitality lodges, and city hotels. And we got also in hospitals, and finally, last but not least, of course, the education sector. We are tying up with a couple of board schools around the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, around the world, to establish the first boarding school and international segment schools, all in Al-Hasa. And this is the new vision of Afyaa, and this is what we are trying to bring to the market. At the beginning, I would like to the people who doesn't know Al-Hasa, Al-Hasa is considered as one of the biggest cities in Saudi Arabia. If you can see it, it's number 24 over there, the blue one. And it shares the border with 3 countries, Oman, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. All the desert from the north to the south belong to Al-Hasa. The accessibility of Al-Hasa got more than 25 million people who can access it within a diameter of around 300 kilometers from there. From Riyadh, it's around 2.5 hours through the train. A very nice, by the way, train journey. So, out of the GDP, Al-Hasa only perform around 30% of the total Saudi Arabia GDP because of oil and dates. One of the things that is maybe not mentioned over there, that was shared by the Ministry of Tourism, that the potential for 2030, the potential target in 2030 vision for Al-Hasa itself is to have at least 10% of the total tourism revenue of the whole Saudi Arabia is coming only from Al-Hasa. As you can see as well, it got border to the sea, to the Gulf. There is mountains. There is the biggest oasis around the world. It's well registered in UNESCO. It's the biggest palm tree oasis over there. And I'm proud from Al-Hasa. I'm proud to be from Al-Hasa. ENVI Lodge. So Over there, we got lots and lots of farms. However, it's basic, normal farm. What brought us to that idea after the pandemic of Corona and after what we saw over that era, we tried to bring something to the market utilizing our resources. From the soul itself of the farms, we try to bring it to something professional, to something up to the highest level of ecologists, but keeping the simplicity itself of that farm. So we would love to keep the soul of this farm as it is. However, the experience itself that we are trying to produce is something coming out of the nature of the place itself. Operator and brand overview. ENVI Lodges has been our partner for this project and the potential other projects as well. However, for the farm, they are specialized in eco-lodges, and they are maybe one of among the fairest or one of around like 3 or 4 operators around the world who is only specialized in separate eco-lodges around the world. So this was the first project that was signed with them, I think even with the operator itself, first project as well. So their identity is to have basic eco-lodges between 4 to 5 star and around 1,500 square meter, an average size of each eco-lodge. So we at Afyaa signed with them 3 potential projects. The first one is the eco-lodge in the farm itself, and there is another one with the mountain, and the last one is the beach lodge as well. All got different location, different concept, but it is an eco-lodge itself. So this is the places for these eco-lodges. So the first one is the farm, which around 10 to 15 minutes away from the mountain lodge, which got 40 for phase 1 and 60 as a total, 60 eco-lodges. That mountain is around 120,000 square meter of land. Something amazing, guys. You need to see it. A sea of date palms from a lush green canopy that stretched to the horizon in every direction. This is Al-Hasa. This is the palmaries over there. It's around 3 million palm tree set within like around 15 to 20 kilometer diameter for each, between each location to the other. And all the villages are surrounded until now by these palmaries. In 2018, it was registered in UNESCO as the biggest oasis around the world for palm trees. Beside the palmaries, there is one of the most famous mountain around Saudi Arabia, which is Al-Kara mountain, and that's the one that we're going to have our project in. Al-Hasa is, since hundreds of years, has been a hub, either port hub or a land hub for trading in Saudi Arabia, and especially the Eastern province and Gulf countries as well. So there are old markets. They are famous in Bisht. I think to the people who doesn't know Bisht, it's just to remind you, it's the one that was worn by Messi during the 2022. So all the best around the Gulf countries that supply to the whole market is produced by handmade over there. So beside the waterfront itself, beside the palmaries, beside the tradition, this is Al-Hasa. I'll leave the mic now for my colleague.
Thank you, Abbas.
James, I took more than enough from the time, so.
Never enough. Good morning, everyone. As mentioned by Abbas, I'm James from Fractal. And today I'd like to share with you our architectural vision for this eco-farm lodge located in the beautiful Al-Hasa in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia. The brief called for 25 biophilic guest rooms of varying sizes. It also included an array of guest facilities and experiences that were intentionally included to help the guests really connect with nature and the farm itself. There'll be a farm-to-table restaurant where ingredients will actually be grown on site. There'll be a wellness sanctuary with male and female spas, as well as an adult swimming pool. We'll even have an arts workshop where guests can try their hand at local pottery and weaving techniques. And last but not least, there's also an active zone for kids, a kids club, a kids pool, and also an adventure center for teenagers and adults alike. Now, the site itself is a working date plantation, and even once the lodge is up and running, that will continue. So our design philosophy was really centered around creating a true sense of place, tying the architecture to the location, to the climate, to the culture. We took a lot of inspiration from our trip to Al-Hasa, looking at the local traditions and their traditional crafts, as well as the architecture of the region. And we were also inspired by the site's agricultural history. So the farm's actually split into plots. Hello, I'm back. Only 300 meters apart in distance, totaling about 3.5 hectares. So we actually took this as an opportunity to give each site its own particular identity and narrative. So plot 1 then became our passive site, with functions more conducive for rest and relaxation. So I think I'd hang out in that plot. Then there's plot 2, which is a more active side that will be more promoting social interaction and more family-orientated accommodation. Now, materiality-wise, we were really fascinated by the mud architecture of the region, a real sustainable combination of mud and straw. Also the way walls are built there, the traditionally load-bearing walls made from mud bricks. And of course, we're in a date palm plantation. There's thatches everywhere. So thatch is used for fencing, traditionally for matting and rope work. It's also used for roofing in some parts of Saudi. Because of durability, we've also started to consider more kind of artificial products like artificial thatch. But what we liked about these materials was their ability to help the architecture blend with the site. Nearby, there's also a palace with its domes, its arches, its great fortifications. And also the nearby souk and gateway has a beautiful ornate patterns and architecture. So these were elements we wanted to include in the architecture, but in not a literal inclusion, but a more contemporary interpretation, should I say. So from this, we combine the thatch, the mud, the straw, composite timber, as well as possibly cross-laminated timber for the prefabricated pods that will be the guest rooms. And from this arose our concept of a plant-based architecture. And as a vegan, that's something very close to my heart. So this is an aerial view of plot 1. We kind of instinctively honed in on larger pockets of space to make way for the larger components of a brief, like the wellness center. So smaller elements like the guest rooms were then dispersed under the natural shade provided by the canopy of the trees. Now, Ahsa is mentioned by Abbas. It's the world's largest oasis. The date palm tree is a natural symbol or emblem of the location. So it's really hard not to be inspired by the tree trunk and the textures and the patterns of it. So moving on to the actual architecture, this is our reception building, one of two, one for each plot. The arrival to the farm is really about a procession, a kind of build-up and anticipation, where guests actually park off-site, picked up and brought to site by golf buggy. They enter through a dramatic gateway of mud and timber. They're driven down an avenue of mature trees before they arrive at this cooling pond and welcoming structure. So the structure is actually directly, as you can probably see, inspired by the actual canopies of the palm trees, the way it extends out, the thatch roof and the composite timber louvers really try to welcome our guests into the farm. The guest pods were made up of a variety of units. We've got studios that sit on the ground. We've got studios that are raised up like tree houses. Pictured here is a one-bedroom unit made up of two pods, a living pod and a sleeping pod interconnected. These will be prefabricated off-site and brought to the site as one piece on a flatbed. Once on site, in situ, we'll clip on these composite timber wings or screens. And these act as a kind of primary defense to the kind of overbearing heat of the daytime and act as a kind of shading device to the pods themselves. They also rise up to give privacy to the private roof decks, sun decks, should I say, that will also be used for stargazing at night. And they also help to conceal MEP equipment. You can see from the patterns of the screens, the kind of random diagonals. We purposely made these structures quite asymmetrical and a little bit rough so that it would, again, try and blend in like a camouflage to the site. Our farm-to-table restaurant is literally built around existing trees. We've retained the trees, and the trees actually puncture through the roof. And we create these series of light wells that kind of allow this filtered light to dapple through into the restaurant. And combined with extensive glazing, we're really trying to blur the boundaries between inside and outside. Now, Al-Hasa is also really famous for pottery and local crafts. And we really loved and were infatuated with the hues and the tones and the shapes of these pots and plates. And when we started to think of the wellness center as possibly a collection of mud sculptures, we reduced each treatment room to a slightly smaller scale, and more intimate, more inducive for private treatments, and formed little clusters of these pods, one for the male spa, the female spa, all radiating around this adult swimming pool. The walls themselves will actually be made from mud brick up to about 1 meter thick, and as per tradition, they kind of taper up as they go to the top to reduce the load. This is an aerial view of plot 2, a slightly more slender site, the more active zone. So we congregated all the kind of activities to one end of the site and differentiated it with a more family-orientated pods to the other side. Now, as mentioned earlier as well, Al-Hasa. Al-Hasa means the sound of flowing water. And we were amazed by this kind of network of canals that existed and zigzagged across the plantation, providing sustenance to the date palms. So what we've done is we've replicated this network to parallel the circulation across the site. So whenever guests move around the farm, they hear this kind of gentle flow of water, and they can see the water flowing. So it almost acts as this kind of beautiful, practical, and functional landscape feature. And you can see how these irrigation channels start to guide and drive the circulation for the guests, in this case from the cafe to the art workshop. And the back of house buildings, we treat it as a kind of part of a theatrical backdrop, finished in mud, perforated with Al-Hasa patterns to allow for natural ventilation. And you can see the thatched dome of our banqueting hall in the background. And last but not least, this is our kids zone. We really wanted to create something really playful, arouse the curiosity of children. We clad this floating box in thatch. And it floats above the children's swimming pool to provide natural shade to the children below. And we also purposefully planned the seating to be this radial pattern. So at night time, the swimming pool also doubles up as an outdoor cinema. And that's it from me. And over to Amani, who'll will take you
Good
through the
morning,
interior.
everyone. Thank you, Abbas. Thank you, James. So let's go inside and explore the interior spaces. We were privileged to work on this project, and it was so inspirational. So we started with the discovery journey, where we visited the farm. We took a lot of inspiration from the local produce, the local elements, such as the palm leaves, the dates, the local produce, and of course, the palm trees. We also went into the city and explored the interior spaces of Hasawi architecture, from the food to the interior spaces to vintage timber doors, and also the details of the really intricate ceilings and how they are layered to produce or to give a sense of bespoke unity to the spaces. We also browsed local arts and crafts, from palm weaving to pottery making, and all of these locally produced artisanal work. Also, our inspiration came from the palm trees and trunks, as mentioned by James, the palm weaving, and also the date produce, as Abbas mentioned, that Al-Hasa produces a big amount of date produce amongst the GCC region. Inspiration also came from the architectural elements, from the local architecture, antique timber doors, arched opening, and these details of intricate plaster work. And materiality, as discussed, we looked into a lot of plant-based materials, from palm trunks to palm leaves to corn and date paper and cork. As you can see, we maintain the element of sustainability that is one of the pillars of ENVI lodges, and we made sure to use it all over the interior spaces. As we said, hay textured wall finishes, the local ethyl plant straws, palm oil fabrics, and sugarcane and bamboo, and also palm leaf weaving. So our concept is derived from the saying "under the palms," which is a local expression for relaxed social gatherings in a cool shade of trees. We step into the shade of Al-Ahsa palms, gather with friends and family, enjoy the local farm produce, and relax under a natural canopy to the soothing sound of the flowing water. One of the design elements and features is the welcoming sound of water. Water feature pays homage to the local ponds and streams and inspired by the meaning of Al-Hasa. A central bespoke feature made of palm trunk slabs, as you can see in the middle picture. So it's an overlayered, mimicking the palm trunks. And this donates the heart of the lobby with a ceiling that evokes being under the palms, as you can see on the right-hand side picture. From the onset, the visitor is taken on a journey in harmony with surrounding nature and local habitats. So this is the look and feel of our reception. So a lot of organic materiality, a lot of sustainable elements. We mimicked also the stream, as James mentioned, that this is one of the feature elements. So we made sure that to use that indoors and outdoors. And also the material board, I'm not going to go through it again, but it's a lot of locally produced or locally sourced materials and sustainable elements. And this is our lobby reception CGI. You can see the use of plasterwork paint that is already inspired by the local Hasawi interior spaces, and it's used and it's done by specific artisanal people. Also the use of big slabs and terrazzo flooring that mimics the water streams going in and out through the lobby space. We can see the local elements used in fabrics and also in small elements in plasterwork all along the lobby feature walls. Moving into another important mural and story, it's at the Farm to Table restaurant. So we called it the fairy tale Under the Palms. Restaurant concept inspired by earthy texture and date farms of history of Al-Ahsa region. The highlight of this restaurant is the ceiling mural that tells the story of Layla and Qais, the Majnoon, and their historical connection to Al-Ahsa region, where they spent part of this incredible love story within that region. The painting style is inspired by ancient hand-painted books about this story, and the painted cement flooring is also decorated with patterns and ornaments that are inspired by the book design and the book storytelling. So here you can see the interior space. We can see this beautiful mural going through the restaurant ceiling. We can see the cementous painted floor as well, taking patterns from local ornaments and also, as mentioned, from the ornaments of the book. We can see how beautifully the palm tree trunks just are crossing through the ceiling and going outdoors. So this is the connection between the indoor and outdoor, and also all of these intricate details of reclaimed wood, the use of palm weaving across the furniture and epiphany pieces. Going into the spa materiality, we use a lot of, again, natural materials, reclaimed painted wood, stone paving, wicker rattan poofs, and this is our spa interior. It's very relaxing, very light, and very inviting, so we wanted to make sure the sense of serenity is provoked within the visitor steps in. And then the other spaces of Al-Hammam space, we can see the unity of using the plasterwork paint from the ceiling to the walls and to the floors. Moving into the gym and yoga, very light materials, very sustainable, and very also textured. This is the outdoor pool area, inspired by the beautiful architecture as well. We made sure to use a lot of these private cabanas, and also we made sure to use a different color of mosaic. Rather than blue, we went with green to mimic the surrounding and the natural elements of this farm. This is our banquet hall. The main feature is the palm leaf layered ceiling that comes across and creates a beautiful dome within, with the handmade chandeliers and also a very bespoke wall feature that comes at the end with the use of reclaimed wood and local ornaments that are engraved within. This is the cafe as well. We can see a lot of the stone, local stone paving, textured walls, and also layered ceiling that is already taken inspiration from the local Hasawi interiors. Also the workshop, we said the workshop is a place where all people would gather, do a lot of pottery making, and where, as we mentioned, young people, adults can always gather over there. And we can see the use of the reclaimed wood and very natural materials as well. Moving into the guest room, so it's a very organic, contemporary space, yet we can see how locality is being implemented there with the use of the layered ceiling, the local Adobe-inspired wall finishes, local ornaments taken from the plaster work that could be found on fabrics, and also curtain trims, and along the use of reclaimed wood that gives the sense of harmony and connection towards the locality. This is our bathroom as well, the guest room bathroom. And finally, the living and dining. There's the connection between the living and dining room. As James said, there are two pods. One is for the bedroom, and the other one is for living and dining. And again, all these elements are repeated within in a harmonious connection between the guest room and the outdoor connection. And that's it for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.